Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'd really love that. I want to go for a ride. If you're returning, how you doing? What we're going to be talking about right now is some things that were sent in by you guys. And if it's important for you to tell me, then it's important for me to tell you. Okay. This first thing, a community member wrote in and she said, my credit union tried to take my picture and I refused. Ooh. She said, so they have a note on their computer screen that they must ask for my ID each time I go in there. This has been going on for a couple of years, and sometimes I have to remind them to check. It was about that time that anytime cash is received, we have to sign what looks like a credit card pad. That was always weird to me. Mine has the same thing. It's like this big, and it's got like that pen looking thing, and you got it. Yeah. She said, our local food bank, small town, got a whole lot less business after the stimulus checks, and I'm sure businesses picked up again. My friend's son owns several rental houses and rents out to low-income people. He's had to clean up after they've moved out, and what they leave behind is food bank food. Yeah. It appears people would take stuff only because it's free. Yeah, I know. We've used to have donated clothing at our church in case people needed emergency stuff in case of a house fire, etc. And our priest went into a neighboring town to go to yard sales, saw familiar goods which he had just given to people running the yard sale. Oh. From that moment forward, the clothing assistance stopped. Some people just ruin things for everybody. I know. I wonder what kind of lie they told him. I should have asked. I was too busy being enraged. Cheers. You know, when people want something bad enough, they will come up with the most elaborate lies ever. And it sucks. And believe me, I know. I've heard it all. I'm not kidding. So she said, P.S. A couple in Peoria, Illinois has been running a porch pantry and it may be shut down due to complaints. They have it up 24 hours and it's become a problem with trash and noise at all hours of the night. Not only that, but the chest freezer is a small child hazard. I believe they will remove the freezer and that may avoid the shutdown. Okay. We, at our pop-up pantry, we are officially out of food. Yeah. We've had it up since October 30th. So we went almost an entire month and we are officially out of food. Yeah. Officially. So I want to thank everybody for the donations, but we are officially out. So. And now a word from our sponsor. Next on the list, this was sent in by a community member and it was a post. It says Texas has 2 Sharia law courts operating right now and is rapidly expanding new mosques. They've added 48 mosques in the past 24 months. Jesus. And in Irving, there are 2 Sharia courts operating. How can they operate their own court system? I'm confused. There are 2 Sharia courts. One of them has ruled on 200 cases last year. The other ruled on 100, and these are voluntary? Wait a minute. Between Fort Worth and Dallas, just by the airport, the DFW, there are two Sharia courts that are operating. You can't have Sharia courts here in the United States of America. How do we have two Sharia courts that are actually handing down decisions and verdicts in the great state of Texas? You can't. They can't. Okay. My brain froze for a minute. It's not like they can sentence you to jail or anything. Because if you were to call like the jail and say, hey, Kim, get this guy, they'd laugh at you and say, you don't make decisions. Okay. So Texas, by the end of the decade, will have more mosques than any other state in the U.S. At the moment, California has around 400 mosques. Texas has 350, but Texas added 50 mosques over the last 24 months, and that is rapidly increasing. Yeah, DeSantis is trying to make it to where we can't have all that stuff here in Florida, but I don't think that's going to work. I don't know. I mean, he's hell bent on a lot of stuff, but I don't think he realizes how big the Muslim population is here in Florida. And there is such a thing between a separation of church and state. Hang on just a minute. Okay, that's what I thought. I had to, I'm going to move this over to the side real quick. I had to look it up. A governor cannot legally, because Governor DeSantis is trying his damnedest to stop all of this from happening. And as a governor cannot legally prohibit the Muslim population from building more mosques or from practicing aspects of Sharia law in their personal or communal lives, such as such actions would violate the First Amendment protections for freedom of religion, including Establishment Clause, which prevents government favoritism toward or against any religion, and the Free Exercise Clause, which protects religious practices. The separation of church and state derived from these clauses ensures that government officials like governors cannot target specific religions for restrictions without compelling neutral reason unrelated to faith. When it comes to building mosques, religious buildings, including mosques, are subject to the same general zoning, building codes, permits, and safety regulations as any other structure, which is based on traffic impact, environmental concerns, and land use. A governor could enforce these neutral laws, but they cannot single out mosques or any religious site for denial simply because of the religion involved. That would be unconstitutional religious discrimination. Historical examples like controversies over mosque construction near Ground Zero in New York highlight that while public opposition can arise, the government cannot block it on religious grounds without violating the Constitution. On enforcing Sharia law. Sharia is a broad set of Islamic principles guiding personal conduct, ethics, and voluntary practices like dietary rules, prayer, or family arbitration agreements, not a formal legal system imposed by U.S. governments. Muslims in the U.S. can follow Sharia in private matters as long as it doesn't conflict with federal or state laws. Similar to how other religious groups follow their own codes, like Jewish halakha or Catholic canon law. No U.S. state or federal court enforces Sharia as law. as any religious arbitration must comply with secular U.S. laws, and parties can appeal to civil courts if rights are violated. A governor cannot stop Muslims from observing Sharia personally, as that would infringe on free exercise rights. Some states have passed laws banning the use of foreign or Sharia laws in court, but these are largely symbolic and apply only to prevent any legal rulings that contradict U.S. constitutional protections, like no stoning or unequal rights. Critics, including the ACLU, argue that these bans are often rooted in anti-Muslim bias and may be unconstitutional if they target Islam specifically rather than applying neutrally to all foreign laws. So, in summary, while governors have the authority over state regulations, they are bound by the Constitution and cannot enact or enforce policies that discriminate against Muslims or any religious groups. Huh. And because I was so curious about those Sharia courts, I looked up more into it. The two entities referenced are likely the Islamic Tribunal in Irving, and possibly a similar arbitration group in the area. So they are not courts, but arbitration and mediation. They function like religious dispute resolution boards, like Jewish Beth Din courts or Christian conciliation services, where Muslims voluntarily seek help with personal matters like divorce, inheritance, business contracts, family conflicts. Participants must agree up front, and any outcome is non-binding unless both sides consent, and it gets rubber stamped by a real Texas court, which checks for compliance with U.S. law like equal rights or no violence. The tribunal's own website stresses we are not a law firm. Decisions must align with local, state, and federal laws. The case numbers. Roy's claim of the 200, 100 rulings in the last year comes from testimony, but the tribunal hasn't publicly confirmed exact figures. Even if it is accurate, these are voluntary agreements, not verdicts enforced by the state. No one's compelled, and it's like it's choosing mediation before lawyers. The Irving Tribunal started in 2015. It faced backlash. It was called a threat back then, and then leading to 2017 Texas law banning the foreign law in family courts if it violates rights. But courts have upheld similar setups as First Amendment protected free exercise of religion, as long as they're not discriminatory or illegal. But just a few days ago, Governor Abbott sent a letter to Dallas area DAs, sheriffs, and AG Ken Paxton demanding probes into Sharia tribunals for allegedly acting as rival courts and violating Texas Penal Code. He ties it to broader actions like labeling CARE as a terrorist group and blocking mosque land buys. And critics, including CARE and legal experts, call this an anti-Muslim witch hunt rooted in conspiracy theories, ignoring that these groups operate like faith-based counselors. So if it is investigated, it's likely to fizzle. Past probes found no crimes. And the First Amendment shields voluntary religious arbitration. Okay, so with that being said, and now a word from our sponsor. Senator John Kennedy, because who doesn't love that man, had this to say. If you were not born on American soil, Get the hell out now. His voice rips through everybody's soul when he speaks, and it ripped through the Senate chamber like a missile strike. I was not there, but I'm going by what I am reading. Okay. And what I was sent. Let me say that. Cameras zoomed in and reporters froze. Aides dropped everything, and every politician in the room could feel the ground shake beneath their feet, and I'm sure. There's something called the Born in America Act, and it has just landed. It's like a nuclear bomb on every naturalized citizen, dual passport holder, a birth tourism baby in high office. 14 members of Congress suddenly found themselves disqualified. And Kennedy said, I don't care if you cry, you whine, you scream. I don't care if the media cries diversity death. This is America. This is loyalty. And if you've been cheating your way to power, it is over. Well, AOC said, this is racist and it's anti-immigrant. And Kennedy said, save it. The law doesn't care about your virtue signaling. The Constitution doesn't negotiate with whining. You cheat the system, you're gone, period. Naturalized citizens, gone. Dual citizens, gone. Birth tourism babies, gone. 14 members of Congress, out. End of story, he said. So, he also said, this is what happens when you put America last. This is what loyalty looks like, and believe me, the Supreme Court will back it. Any challenge, any whining, any protest, it ends here. Washington has just been hit, and no one was walking away unscathed. And the nation's political landscape could never recover. Yeah. And now a word from our sponsor. So now this. Texas just slammed the gates shut, allegedly. They didn't just make a statement. They kicked open the front door, they flipped the table, and told the troublemakers to get their junk and hit the road. Greg Abbott finally went full dad, who's had enough of everybody's nonsense. And like we were talking about before, he officially labeled the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE as foreign terror organizations. The first governor in the whole country with a spine to say it out loud. And here's the best part. They're now barring from any owning of any land in the state of Texas. Nothing. Not even a speck of sand. So, while the rest of the country is busy arguing about feelings and pretending groups tied to Hamas or Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, and every other alphabet soup nightmare are civil rights organizations, Texas just said, if you support jihad, you try to sneak Sharia in the back door. Now get off our soil. And then CARE said, bigotry, Islamophobia, wah. Only in America can a group get caught funding extremists and still get shocked when someone finally calls them out for what they truly are. But Abbott, he didn't blink, he didn't stutter, he didn't call a committee to see if anyone's feelings might get bruised. Nay, nay. He laid all the cards out on the table. He was blunt. He was clear. And these extremists are not welcome here. They're not buying land here. They're not spreading their poison in Texas anymore. He does not want it. And it's refreshing to see a leader say no. So good job, Abbott. Good job. Somebody has to remind America that protecting your people is more important than protecting somebody's political correctness. And if the rest of the country wants to keep playing pretend, that's fine. Texas will be over there doing the grown-up work while the other states are busy arguing who's identifying as a house plant today. Did you get enough water? How about some Miracle Grow? Just saying. All right, guys, I'm out of here. I will see you in the next one, okay? You stay safe, you stay positive, you keep prepping, and as always, fearless and God bless.